they can learn from Uncle Lloyd.
Oh, no.
And he was making screaming noises pretending to be the trampoline. So no one told me when I was at school that the bin men were earning more than the teachers.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast, episode 12. It's time for celebration. The news we've all been waiting for months now. We're all so happy at Knowlton HQ right now because I can finally reveal in episode 12 of the Business Anchors podcast, I've had a haircut. Hey! If you're a viewer of the podcast right now, you can see the top of my head for the first time in about 6 or 7 episodes.
And it looks... Didn't the guy who did it didn't give you the thing you wanted? You said to me.
Oh, no. I mean, this haircut definitely wasn't what I asked for, but
What did you ask for?
Oh, that's a good question. I said... Oh, God.
Anyway, it's not that interesting.
Yeah,
Carry on.
I'm just worried. Well, as soon as you asked me that, I'm worried that I wasn't very good with my communication. But yeah, I made sure I was the first haircut of when they opened, because I thought... Could be risky going to a barber's, loads of people going into one place, but I thought, if I'm the first one...
And it looks great.
Yeah. I knew you were being sarcastic then. So
What are we doing today? What's this one
we're
about?
talking about haircuts. No, we are talking about education.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this one, because I think...
Because yours is terrible.
Clearly my education was brilliant because I've turned out so well.
Yeah.
No, but we're going to talk about education kind of as in school and uni and stuff, but also in a business context of like educating yourself about business and improving. But I think we've got a nice mixture of things to talk about, like funny stories of us being at school and university and stuff, but also the kind of discussions on the education system and critiquing that for business and things.
We kind of went through a similar sort of journey in terms of the things we did-ish, but we also had very different experiences, I think. In terms of we both went to uni.
Oh.
And we both went to the same primary and secondary school, but we had completely different experiences, I think.
I think our attitudes to education and school are very different as well throughout doing similar things.
One of us did really well and the other one didn't, but we'll just, I guess
put down in the comments who you think did well and who didn't. You say did well, Dan. You're just talking about the traditional academic sense. We'll be discussing this later.
Lloyd found himself.
I found and lost myself many times during my education. So that's what we're going to be covering.
I think it'll be interesting for people who are wondering what to do in terms of, like, if you're thinking about any kind of higher education, because we've been there, done it. Also, people who are from a business sense who are thinking, how can I learn stuff and then sell my products or services? Because we've learned in a very different way. And
this podcast will be useful for everyone, because if you're a parent, we're talking about the education system for your children. If you're actually in education, you're younger, still relatable to you.
If you can say education, then it's for you as well.
So bring all your friends and families. Get a headphone splitter. Get them listening with you.
Gather around.
Turn the volume up in that car. This will be useful for the toddler in the back of the car you're trying to get to sleep. They'll know exactly what to do throughout their education. They can learn from Uncle Lloyd.
Oh, no, that sounds so creepy.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. So it will be interesting because coming out of school used to be very, you either go into a trade or you go to university. Or go and get yourself a job in Tesco's or with Steve down the road who cleans windows. I think there are more options coming out of education and that kind of thing.
Do you remember who was that person you meet when you're in secondary school? Careers that was called something. Connections.
His name is Mr. Toe.
Oh.
I don't know if that's just our school, but I'm pretty sure everyone.
I don't think Mr. Toe covers the whole of the UK.
No. Hi, Derek, if you're listening. You're not.
He was a wicked teacher, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was brilliant.
I think is he still at Danecourt?
It's strangely he is. Yeah. Strangely, when I started secondary school in the year 2000 or 2001, he was about 75, and he still is. I don't know what's happened there. He's still there, looks exactly the same age. I think he just doesn't age. He could still beat me in a 100 metres race. Great teacher.
He used to do a lot of non-PC stuff, like give give kids like fat kids
he
nicknames
was
like
he
Fatty.
was traditional. Traditional. I mean, like more. Yeah, I mean, he probably
He
should.
called some of my
retire.
Ginger Fatty as their nicknames, and I don't think you'd quite get away with that now.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't now. I think he may have had to adapt his style with that. I remember
What was
quite
your
a large boy, another large boy, I should say, on the trampolines at school, and he was making screaming noises, pretending to be the trampoline. So there were elements of his teaching that weren't as good as the others.
How'd you get
but
away with
I
that?
think overall, if anyone's listening that knows Mr. Toe, very good experience.
Yeah, I
at
think most
school.
people say
he
he was a good
definitely
teacher.
was a positive impact on my life and encouraged me to lose weight. So early education, Dan.
Do you mean primary school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the UK, because obviously our listeners, we've been charting in Italy. So maybe it'd be called something different in Italy. So grazie for listening, Italians. But yeah, primary school. I had a very. I remember the moment in primary school where my personality completely changed.
What, you stopped crying when people spoke to you?
Yes. So I was very shy when I was young. I think we seem to always talk about this. About
Mrs. Lowe's
Dan
magic
just
tissues.
tells everyone that I cried, and yeah, Mrs. Lowe's had magic.
Hi Lloyd,
tissues.
how are you?
Yeah. No, come on, we're just trying to help you. Stop crying every time we look at you. But yeah, I was really shy and really, like Dan said, to the extent of crying when people looked at me. And I remember the moment in my head when I kind of got into the juniors of school. So what?
Well, year 3.
I'm like 8, 9.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And there was a click in my head. I suddenly thought, like, I
don't need to cry.
I remember looking around the playground thinking, kids that are like confident just do what they want. Seem to have so much fun, and I'm just over here scared to talk to anyone. And I just, one of my Angie's mum, Barbara. Hi, Barbara, if you're listening. She says she remembers the moment where I was just, I was really shy, and then I just started getting my bum out and ran around the playground showing everyone my bum, and suddenly went really weird and outgoing. And I remember that because I remember being at cricket club after school doing a moonie, and some parents walking past, and then I wasn't allowed to go to cricket club for a couple of weeks.
I don't remember you getting your bum out all the time.
Yeah, but it was to that extent. I suddenly was like, I can have fun. I can just do what I want.
Get your bum out.
Had to rein it in with the bum out thing. Yeah. But yeah, I really did. My personality changed in primary school, and really, it's
I don't think I was that shy.
No, you weren't.
I don't think I was. No, I was the opposite. Yeah, I was more outgoing, wasn't I? But more consistently outgoing, I'd say, just throughout rather than.
I do think primary school teachers, because a lot when we talk about education, most people I think would focus on secondary. When you think, oh, that teacher that really, they turn. You talk about secondary education, or you talk about university doing something. But I think primary school teachers really have a huge. It's not necessarily an impact you remember. Because you're so young, but you're developing and learning so quickly there.
I just remember.
Hats off to primary school teachers.
Do you remember your reception teacher's name? Mine was Mrs. Beckley.
Mine was Mrs. Lowe's, magic tissues.
Year 1?
Mrs. Ross, she was a bit crazy.
It's weird how you remember stuff. I just remember Mrs. Beckley being so lovely and nice, and Mum and Dad always take the mick out of me. Yes, Miss Beckley. Yes, Miss Beckley.
You were very much a teacher's pet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so positive. One of my memories of you at school, Dan, I was wondering if you remember this. So, because me and Dan are 2.5 years apart, we kind of crossed paths in primary school and secondary school. And the first day of you in juniors, Dan, so you joined me in the juniors playground.
Were you going to a different playground?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So you came into there, and I remember you kind of, I'm a junior, thinking you're basically a man now. And you played football with a group of people that I usually played football with.
With the sponge balls where you could tread on the sponge balls so no one tackled you.
Yeah, and if it rained, you get it hit at you, you just got a massive wet patch on you. And you played one day, and it was kind of one of those things where it was like normal teams, like, oh, this is who I play with, this is the team, that's the team. And I think someone was off sick or something, so Dan played instead of them. And then the day after, Dan I thought he expected to be in. It's like, I played with these guys yesterday. And they're like, oh no, like, Alex is back now, so you can't play. Dan just cried loads and wouldn't stop crying. So I actually walked over to the field with him, sat down with him and tried to comfort him, and then I cried loads. And that was Dan's second day of year three at school.
Do you remember that? I do not remember
I remember it because I was I'm quite an emotional person. If someone I like or love cries, I'm basically there sobbing with them.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I remember it. It was quite emotional at that time.
Yeah.
How weird that like something so emotional, like, that boy didn't let me play football with him. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it'll be okay. We'll get through this. It'll be fine.
Do you know what I remember doing? That just made me remember doing weird things. Like, I remember thinking it was cool in that one of those years when it rained and you got really wet and you'd go outside and like whoever got the wettest was the coolest. And I remember one day.
Not sure that was a thing.
no, but I don't know why. I remember one day literally going into the toilets and just getting the tap on, just covering myself in water so that I looked wetter than the other people. Oh,
I mean,
God.
you were a fan of the wet look gel for a number of years.
Oh, yeah,
that was crispy.
You could get crispier in the rain as well.
You could crack Dan's hair.
I remember curling. You basically got a curly brush. I really used to be into my hair. Like, I would not leave the house without it.
Used to.
And I used to,
got
you
highlights.
gelled it and then you got a curly brush. I can't think what it's called. It's a round brush. And you kind of gel it and then you get to the front and you twist it. And then you had it looked like a wave going over like a quiff.
God, you always have been so cool, Dan. Thanks for talking us through how we get really cool wet look, like a wave on your head.
We're actually sponsored by, what was that, Shockwaves? Do you remember that gel?
Shockwaves. Make your hair look soaking wet all day.
Yeah. Yeah, but we had some good times at school, I think.
What about moving on to talk about secondary school as well? What was your... Because some people come out of school, absolutely love it. Some people come out of school and they're like, oh, God, I hated school. And then there's people in the middle. How do you remember kind of how you felt at school? Did you feel like under pressure? Did you feel just like, oh, this is fun? Or what was your...
I mainly enjoyed it, I think. I mainly... I was like... I tried hard and I got good grades and stuff, but I was also a bit of a rebel and had a group of mates and had fun and sort of did naughty stuff as well. So I had a good combo of trying hard and getting good grades, so sort of mum and dad were happy, but then also did do quite a few naughty things as well. Yeah. What about you? What would you say your...
So I absolutely loved school.
The whole, as in throughout preschool, whatever, and then secondary school?
Yeah. Mainly secondary school, but I loved every minute of it, and which I think is quite unusual.
Do you remember you had an afro?
I did for a little bit, yeah. That's really good.
And you used to bring an afro comb.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't need to talk about how terrible my hair was at one point.
So you enjoyed it then?
Yeah, I loved it. And
why did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it because I was going to a place all day, 5 days a week, with a group of really good friends. And just having a laugh. And because of my personality, I didn't feel any pressure because I wasn't bothered about doing well. And so for me, it was just going and having fun.
Just playing one bounce for mates.
Yeah, just going with my mates. Occasionally, we have to sit in there and learn about chromosomes. But other than that...
I remember you doing weird stuff in you hit a bit of a rebel stage in sixth form. Remember when you came in, one day you got drunk in sixth form. And another day you did the milk challenge where you just tried to down loads of milk and were sick everywhere.
You're remembering that wrong.
What then? What?
So a group of other guys.
Are you sure you did do a milk, or you did a chili challenge or something?
I can tell you, Dan. Just listen.
Go on.
A group of other guys were doing the milk challenge, which is basically you just try and down 4 pints of milk, and it makes you physically sick because your body can't handle that. So because I've got a very weak stomach, I didn't participate. But so this group of guys were doing the milk challenge. They started puking up everywhere. Then because I saw them, I started puking up everywhere.
Oh, no. What, you used to have a really weak stomach, so we'd walk past a bird poo and we'd point out to Lloyd and he'd literally be gagging. Do you remember that?
I remember on the way to a university exam, a bird pooed next to me and I was sick. Anyway, I really, really liked school. And I don't know, I'm trying to work out why I was so unbothered about... The only reason I was putting effort in was to make mum and dad happier, but I still only did that for like the first week of term, then forgot about it.
Well, no, there was one subject that you really put a lot of effort into.
What?
Drama. Lloyd loved his drama, didn't you?
Well,
you had a group of girls.
I put effort into it. Yeah, it was more GCSE drama. I was the only boy in the class. But I only got a C for GCSE because I physically didn't hand in my coursework.
Oh, really?
So I got like an A for my practical, but when you put it with a U for the other stuff, it equals
and
out.
Wasn't there? Oh, it's not funny, but your drama teacher sort of got done.
Very dodgy.
Done for...
Very dodgy. He just filmed us.
Burlesque, wasn't it? Called the girls to dress up. I mean,
it was very strange.
He's definitely in prison.
I'm surprised it wasn't in the papers and stuff, but I think obviously the
Didn't you just get all the girls to dress up in skimpy outfits and film
he
them
took them to Anne Summers to get outfits for the school play, which then got allowed to go ahead, but just to pair the girls'
Just
parents and no one else. And he also filmed my drama class and said, it's for the examiners. And then when he left, suddenly, surprisingly, we were like, do you need to film any more for the examiners? Like, no, we don't need to film anything for the examiners. So it's like,
God.
okay. So yeah, all a bit weird that was. But that's a discussion for another day and another police station.
But I think all round, we are quite lucky that we enjoyed school. I think for a lot of people... School, like for our dad, I don't think he enjoys school.
No.
For a lot of people, school isn't fun.
I think
it's not very nice.
We were hugely lucky. I think a huge thing about your enjoyment of school is having a good group of friends.
Yeah.
Because there are, and I think especially now, kids really feel under pressured with exams and tests and things and that kind of thing. And not everyone's like me that just didn't have a care in the world and felt happy. So I think having good friends around you really does affect it. And if you don't have that, I can understand why you wouldn't like school. And kids can be mean.
Yeah.
You know, I look back at some things that I thought, I used to joke around with that person. I look back and think, actually, that could have been upsetting that person.
I was like that.
But in hindsight, you can see that. But when you're a kid, you just go, we're all mucking around.
Yeah.
So I do think I completely understand why school could be tough for some people.
I also think it's weird. Do you remember SATs?
Yeah.
Like taking SATs and how we were made to, but SATs are basically just the school deciphering how clever you are, nothing to do with your progress really. But I remember feeling so much pressure to revise for hours and hours for these SATs and feeling like it was a thing that you actually...
Yeah, and I know that's a big argument. A lot of people say, because I think SATs are more about judging how the school's doing.
Just put the kids under pressure and then...
Yeah, it's the children, when you're kids, you don't really understand why you're doing tests. You just think, I've got to do well. My teacher said I've got to try hard, and my mum and dad want me to do well, and grandma says she'll buy me a £5 toy if I do well. And I think, I do feel, and I also think, I don't know, a lot of those tests don't really make sense.
Oh no, like the non-verbal reasoning and all those. Do you know, if this shape slightly moves sidewards a bit, times 3.
Yeah, because we live in Kent, in an area where it was called the 11 plus. Now I think it's just called the Kent test.
Yeah.
But if you pass, you go to grammar school, and if you fail, you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was basically IQ tests and things, and I do think this isn't fair because I feel the more wealthy families basically got private tutors in to train their children how to pass. Not necessarily meaning they're more intelligent than other children.
They just had more.
But it's like you train to get good at the test rather than anything else. And I don't know. I don't think that's a very fair system because at the end of the day, being able to afford private tutoring will give you a better...
Do you also remember another thing they used to sort of, which again is a non-PC thing, they used to not threaten you, but say, if you don't try hard, you'll be a bin man. And I watched an episode of Come Dine With Me last night, and a bloke was sort of saying that, and then one of the people there was a refuge thing, and he's like, it's weird that they put
that was a normal thing. You be a bin man.
It's like, no one
told me when I was at school that the bin men were earning more than the teachers. Oh, be careful! They should be saying, "Be careful, otherwise you might be a teacher."
Yeah.
But
because you were gonna be, you obviously went to uni, didn't you? And you were gonna be a teacher, but then didn't you not like the idea of you basically go home and mark books all night on? Yeah,
the overall. I mean, I like to work not hard, and that was hard. No, I came out of it. I qualified as a primary school teacher, but I was 20. I don't think I'd even turned 21 yet because I was one of the younger ones. And I was looking at the kind of the lifestyle of a teacher, and they like I said, hats off to teachers because they work so hard. And it's not like, people go, oh, got the school holidays off, 9 till 3. And it's like, it's the complete opposite of that. It's like, so they've got those 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
They might have a couple of days where they don't have to do stuff.
They do only get 6 weeks off for summer as well. So.
You're one of them, aren't you?
No, but I know what you mean. They've got to do loads.
But so I was being 20. I kind of looked at it and thought I basically didn't want to sign myself up to that lifestyle yet. I kind of thought, oh, well, let's try some different stuff, and I've got that qualification if I want to go to that. And I really enjoyed the time in the classroom actually teaching, but it was the paperwork and things around it that I.
Do you remember hearing any like weird stories from school, things that happened? I've got one in mind which is pretty horrendous. But it was a kid below me at school. You hear those stories. This is actually true. Right. But he it's horrible. But he basically took a dump on a teacher's desk. Did you hear about that? Is this
one of those things where you say he and it's you?
No. Really? No.
I do remember something like that.
Yeah. Just think, imagine going into your
secondary school teacher. I don't know if I'd be cut out for that.
No way. Putting up with kids that are just.
Well, we went to a grammar school that, on average, there's normally less behavioural issues and things.
But still,
I couldn't have dealt with it.
Yeah, people taking dumps on teachers' desks.
Yeah.
Imagine
I went back to do. We had to, when I trained to be a primary school teacher, we had to do an alternative placement. So we basically had to do a placement around education that wasn't in a primary school. So you could go to a nursery, or you could go to like a drama school. But I went.
You obviously went to that then.
No, I went back to Dane Court in the PE department. And because I was I think I was 19 at the time, but some of the oldest kids doing sport had already turned 18. Yeah. So that was really weird. It's like, respect me, because I'm your teacher now. But yeah, I wouldn't have been cut out for that. I remember as well, the sport teacher had to go in and they had to do a sex education session. So Lloyd, it was my friend's brother as well. So Lloyd, you're coming in with me doing this. And in front of this group of 18-year-olds, I just went, guys, we've got today, I know you'll be giggling and stuff. We're going to be learning about condoms. We're going to be talking about masturbation. And then he said, and for that section, I've brought in an expert on masturbation. This is Mr. Knowlton. And I was just sat there obviously in front of them, and they were all sniggering, and I was kind of like, you have made me look like a... And I was like, no, I'm not, kids. That's not who I am. But yeah, that was...
Have you got any other interesting stories from school that pop out into your head? Loads of weird stuff happened in your year.
Yeah. Do you know
you had the hard crew, didn't you? There was the hard crew.
Something I did at school. Do you want to hear my most rebellious thing I ever did at school, I reckon?
Go on.
How long can you face criminal charges for stuff?
I don't know.
Anyway. Let's just say Brian did this. My friend Brian.
Yeah.
So my friend Brian.
Yeah.
We had the sixth form common room that was like this little hut.
Yeah.
That we had when you get into sixth form. It's like,
I'm intrigued
cool.
Now.
We've got our own little area, and we had like a Nintendo 64 in the corner, and like. We just hung out.
Your hats backwards.
Only older kids can come in here because we're so cool. No, none of you younger kids, thanks. And so it was like quite a cool area and stuff. And
quite a cool area.
Cool. Oh god, I sound like such a dad now.
You're so uncool.
This is really awesome area where we had games consoles. And there was like a system for the fire exit where you had to break a glass tube and the door opened.
Yeah.
So that glass tube got broken for whatever reason. I wasn't involved with that, officer. And then someone had shoved a bit of wood to kind of take place of that glass tube. So then if you want to get out, you move the bit of wood.
Yeah.
And then you escape the fire.
Yeah.
And I devised a plan where I took the bit of wood out and put a bit of pencil in there, tied a bit of string to it, put it outside the door so that I could get into the building if it was locked. And then one Friday night, we just went there and got drunk.
Really?
At like midnight on a Friday night. And one of the sports teachers, we had to wait for ages on the ground of this floor without putting any lights on because she was just playing badminton in the sports hall with her friends.
Really?
She was probably a rebel as well. Probably no one knew she was doing that. But yeah,
Oh my
we just
God.
did. I think that's probably one
That is
of the
quite
most,
rebellious for you.
other than putting a bra up on the flagpole.
Oh yeah.
I did that as well.
Did you used to bench people? Do you remember benching?
Oh, that's horrible. But I'd say yes, but I was probably benched as much as I got benched.
Where basically someone goes on their hands and knees behind someone, then you push them and they just fall over.
Very weird.
Yeah.
We I think we should. That's enough about our weird school
Okay.
stories anyway. But we're going to be talking more about actually the education system and less about us and more about that kind of thing soon. But I've got an idea, Dan.
Go on.
So this will be more relevant to viewers of the podcast.
Okay.
So if you don't know, guys, if you are listening, you can view this podcast on YouTube, and there's also clips that we post on the Knowlton
When Lloyd actually
Facebook
uploads
page,
it.
Twitter, and sign. I think I'm going to ignore that comment. So I've got an idea. If you leave us a review with the words "my face" in your review, and don't make it obvious. So it could be something like, "God, this really made my face hurt when I was laughing so much about how hilarious Lloyd is," or "Oh, great to have this content in my face." You know, you got to be better than that. If you put the words "my face" in your review for the next episode,
Yeah.
you see that screen behind us with our faces on.
I see that screen behind some of the face on, yeah.
We're going to put a listener's face in the middle of it
Oh
for
my
a whole
God.
episode.
How amazing
I
is that?
know. So you can tell your grandkids there was one episode of this weird business podcast that not many people listened to, and my face was on a screen, but no one really
yeah.
viewed it, but my face was there.
I mean,
Yeah.
what an incentive.
I know. So I can imagine we're going to be getting a huge amount of reviews this week, because who wouldn't want that?
Basically, the one person that says my face in your review, you get in your face on there.
Yes. Yeah. There might be two. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. And as I said before, we've been charting in Italy this week, so grazie, all you Italians out there.
Amore.
Yes. Cool. So, looking more at the education system, Dan, in this country, in the UK, or well, we could talk about globally, but do you think? So we went down a similar route of school, and then we went to university, and then came up with university and got a job. Do you think like what we went through did well to set us up for life? Do you think it was?
Oh, you said life then, which I was about to say no, but you said life. So I think, I don't want to go Gary V on it, but I do think the education system's broken.
Mm-hmm. All right, Gary.
For a number of reasons. Just hustle, man. No, for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't think you learn enough about practical shit. Like setting up a bank account, or how to manage money and not spend it all and get in loads of debt, or like practical stuff like that. I think you learn algebra and non-verbal reasoning and random stuff that you never really end up using unless you've got a job that's like a mathematician or something. So I think that's one reason it's broken. Secondly, I think when it gets to university, especially now, I think a few years ago the university fees like times by 3. I went when it was 3 times less expensive, and I got in 25 grand debt, I think, to do my course. But I think university isn't the right approach unless you're doing a job where you need like a doctor or a solicitor or a lawyer, where you literally need to remember certain things and learn certain things. Like business, I think I've learned way more by doing it rather than I reckon I've applied probably 5% of what I learned at uni to this business.
Yeah,
and it cost 25 grand.
Yeah, what you said about the cost of uni and things, that really shifted my thoughts even more to the side of, don't get me wrong, so uni can be right for people. There's definitely value in it, but I definitely don't think it's right for the amount of people going to university, because people are getting to 30, 40, like upwards of £40,000 worth of debt to complete a 3-year course now. And I just think that what could you do with that £40,000 to make you a more rounded person, more prepared for this world? Surely there's a huge amount you could do.
But you can't think like that, because you can't just get a 40 grand loan for that. You can get a 40 grand loan to go to uni, but you can't just go to a bank when you're 17 and say, can I have a 40 grand loan to go travelling? Can you?
But should we as society be thinking, hang on, if we're lending people £40,000 to do a university course, why aren't we lending them
Totally.
£40,000 to work for an employer part-time for 3 years and just cover their costs?
So
I know there are apprenticeship schemes, but more
on
more
reflection
creative.
for me, I've kind of shit on uni a bit, but I genuinely got the huge value I got was that, I know it's probably cliche, but the life experience. Like I learned how to interact with other people better and how to work in teams and groups and with other people, and had life experiences that set me up, and I feel have helped get me to where I am today. However, I reckon I could have got those experiences through like a year of traveling for a fraction of the cost. So in my mind, if this was a thing on reflection, what would I think would have helped me progress further than I am today? Hopefully doing this with you, but we'd be further on. I'd say doing a year or 2 years kind of traveling to get the life experience, which I don't know how much traveling costs now. You can probably a few £1,000 a year or something, maybe.
It depends where you go and
but
the
not
lifestyle
25 grand. It's going to be less than that. So do that for a couple of years to kind of find myself or whatever and get those experiences, and then from then come back and just work from the ground up in an agency, like starting by making the teas and then building your way up. Like, do you know what I mean? I think I reckon we'd be further along.
Yeah, I do.
From my input in the business,
Yeah.
I don't know what you might have a different opinion. What do you think on reflection?
No, I definitely. So there were very positive things that came out of university for me that I will talk about. But when it comes to what we're doing now, I don't feel there's very few things that university has helped me with, and I feel for those 3 years I could have been doing much more useful.
What has it
things.
helped you with? Because I'll be interested to hear. What would you say?
So it's helped me with the best thing ever that's happened in my life.
Oh, I remember what you can say. Critical thinking.
Oh, that's the second.
Oh, okay, go on.
The first thing is I got a university degree, came out of university, got a temporary job at Boots one Christmas.
Oh.
And they said to me, because you've got a degree, you're going to go in the pharmacy. And I said, but my degree's nothing to do with medicine. I go, no, well, no one else has got one. So they're on the tills, you're in the pharmacy. That's where I met my wife, and now we're happily married
So
and
there
got
you go.
Leo. So,
and you're ultra happy. So that
without
is
the
actually...
degree, that wouldn't have happened. But you can't really plan for that to happen.
Imagine that.
So-
You went down a different path. You're on the tills, Lloyd, because you haven't got a degree.
Yeah, exactly. And
You met that girl on the
She just would have
tills.
looked over at me like, oh, not good enough for me. I'm in the pharmacy.
So that's one good thing.
So one good thing, like you said, Dan, there was literally one lecture out of the whole 3 years that was right
That
at
you
the
went to.
start that I went to that was about critical thinking and actually not just listening to what society puts in front of us, news, friends, family, information sources, actually looking at everything, critically thinking about, should I believe this? Why has this been communicated
Why
this way?
should businesses be corporate? Why can't
Yeah.
you be uncorporate?
Yeah, what questions I can be, and that's helped me in my whole life. So, but could I have learnt that lesson for cheaper than £25,000 debt and 3 years of my life? Probably.
Yeah. You'll just never know, though. It's so annoying. Or not annoying, but it's pointless to think on reflection. What would have happened if you wouldn't have gone to uni? And you just will never know.
Yeah. I do think my university course was terrible value. It might have been my
Didn't people just not
personal
turn up
experience.
and stuff? Like
I used
the
to
lecturers?
go to lectures, and the people teaching just didn't turn. It was very badly organised. They just wouldn't turn up. So then I'd just go home. It'd be kind of a whole day of just
Go home and get drunk.
yeah. Fine, got nothing to do. Vodka and Dominoes it is again. Add to that student debt. But yeah, and just for the time that I was actually learning, or the opportunity to learn, didn't always turn up, but just didn't add up to how much we were paying for it.
Yeah. And then I know you've said this story before. We'll say it really quickly. I still love the story of you got so annoyed of yourself going out every day to clubs and stuff that you used to go to uni dressed in really rubbish clothes that you wouldn't want to go out in, and then you then to stop yourself going out, and then you'd end up just buying a whole outfit whilst out and about.
It didn't work. I'd get talked into it at uni, then I'd just go down to Canterbury High Street and buy a full set of new clothes to then go out in the evening.
I remember another thing you said about, because you were, it's a known thing, you were terrible with money when you were younger, like at uni, because didn't you, and I kind of get the feeling, because I had it as well, you've never had more than probably like 100 quid in your bank up until the age of 18.
Well, my paper round, when I left my paper round, they were paying £16 a week.
And then you go to uni, boom, 1,500 quid or whatever it was in your bank. You literally thought you'd won the lottery.
Here's your student loan for the next, right, let's couple of £1,000. Oh, and also you got a £1,500 overdraft. I was basically there like,
Are you joking?
am I Bill Gates? I can do anything in the world I want to.
And you did.
And what I want to do is buy a bottle of vodka and buy 2 for Tuesday's Domino's pizza. Yeah.
You just got in
but
loads of debt,
again,
didn't you?
that's interesting about education. Obviously, like I should have at the age of 18, hopefully been more mature and responsible. But if I'm honest, I wasn't. And I think should it just makes sense, surely, at school to be learning about finances. And when you just spend your overdraft, you have to pay that back, and then the interest adds up to this.
Lloyd would just spend all of his overdraft, get to the bottom, and then just contact another bank provider and get another credit card.
I was not even another one. I was paying off the same bank's overdraft with a loan from that bank, and they're like, "Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's all right."
Yeah. But you're really good now. But I'm guessing
But again, it's just one of these weird things. We're talking about education and learning. So I learnt from that terrible experience and paying off that debt for a number of years. And now I like to think I'm very good with money and finances and planning
minted.
with money. No, definitely not. But I'm not stupid with money. And so I learnt that. So it's kind of like, oh, was it worth it? And I don't know.
You don't know because you don't know the little things. We're just talking about the things we are aware that we've learned and got. There's probably tons of things that we don't even know we learnt because one thing happened that impacted us, and the butterfly effect of that's ingrained in us because we feel.
I also think there's a difference in learning the normal academic stuff at secondary school and uni, and actually learning to be a better, more rounded person. And with university, it's still, I know there are now grants and things, but it's still, certainly my experience was that it was full of people that were a bit more comfortable financially, and their families were, and whereas I felt families that didn't have as much money were more encouraged, like, oh no, you need to go out and get a job. And I feel like, so just being surrounded by people that were wealthy enough to go to university, does that set you up well for life? Will you be as good of a rounded person if you're just surrounded by people that are more highly educated and have more money?
I don't know. Looking back at the moments in my life where I feel on reflection that I've learnt the most are when something's really impacted me, like either in a negative or positive way. So like after university, when I did my graduate job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, one of the when I started the job, I fucked up loads of times. Basically, I just mucked up, and one of them I remember, I drove a van for the first time in the wash bay, and basically with the way the business was set up, the branch manager gets a percentage of the profits. So if you muck something up, it basically hits his wage because he has to pay for the repair of the. And I just was driving out the wash bay, and I just heard. And like just scraped the whole side of this van. It's literally thousands of pounds coming out of his pocket. And then like the feeling of, I know that's only a small lesson, don't drive a van into the side of a wall, but it's the things where
maybe people should do courses on that.
when you make a mistake and you feel really rubbish, they're the things that you remember and think, I do not want to get that rubbish feeling again. And they're the things where you really learn something. In a lecture where a teacher's going, yeah, you should do this thing when teaching, and you're barely listening, you're not going to remember that. But the things, it's like, if you're in a lesson and a kid's screaming at you, and then you tell them off and they're really sad, and then you help them and they say, thank you so much, teacher, you're the best ever. That's the thing that's going to make you...
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and going back to my teaching course, I did, when I was in the classroom, I'd say I learnt 10, 20, 100 times more there than being taught the theory of do this. But there's value of people passing on information to you that you don't know in that way. But like
because it needs to be a combination, doesn't it? It needs to be a combination of that because you want some sort of teeing up to go and do the practical thing by learning a bit about the theory. But then for me, same as you, it's just practical doing it.
I've got a question for you, Dan.
Go on.
So you're a relatively new father.
Yep.
To my lovely little nephew, who's the cutest.
He's so cute.
Second cutest little boy ever.
He's the cutest me.
Do you have any concerns about the education system in this country for your son? Or are you actually really happy and thinking, what a brilliant...
That's a really good question. I'd say with the early stages of learning, I'd be a lot more happy at the moment, because like learning how to read and write and speak and that kind of thing, I don't know enough to like have a really good idea, but I feel like that the basics, the UK has it right in learning that. But I think as you get older, I haven't thought enough about it at the minute, but I'm definitely gonna try to support him to learn the best possible way he can, like doing extra curricular activities and stuff, not just sending him off to school and then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I guess you've got, your son's older, so you've probably thought a lot more about this. What do you think?
Yeah, he's starting school in September, so it's quite
you probably thought a lot more about this. So what have you?
Well, I think you can't forget that we are incredibly lucky to have an education system like this in this country, and a lot of people aren't that fortunate. So we've got to be hugely grateful for that opportunity for us and our children. And I think we're really lucky as well that this country's full of amazing teachers, which can have such a huge impact.
Lots of Mr. Toes.
However, I'm a bit concerned that I do think schools are very slow to catch up with the modern world, in my experience. And this is my experience of working in schools, being at school, and now looking at it from afar. I think in some ways the way that children are tested, so it's like if you can
remember this stuff,
remember this stuff and write it on a bit of paper, then you're clever. Whereas it's like, well, actually, this guy's the most creative person in this whole school, but he struggles to get this down on paper, and he's then deemed not as good as everyone else. So I think there's still something there that needs to be worked on, in the way that whole society looks at who's come out of school looking the best, because there are really hugely talented children that go relatively unnoticed because they're not good at certain things.
But I think there are lots of, but now people are a lot more aware of that. There's a lot of people beating that drum of the education system's broken. Yeah. And I think and also I've got one sort of question back to you. Do you really know what happens in lessons now? Like, because I would just imagine a lesson is like when I went to school, which it definitely isn't, because they've progressed with technology and stuff. Yeah. Like, well, do you know what they? I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what happens in every classroom, obviously, because I'm not. And there's a lot that I don't know. But what I do know is it doesn't matter what happens in those classrooms if at the end of it, everyone gets the same thing, which is a piece of paper with some letters or numbers on.
That makes sense, yeah.
So actually what's happened that whole time might not change the outcome.
Yeah, that is still the outcome of this. This decides if you're good or not.
This decides if you can get this job or go to this place to get more education.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. And also, I do think the current curriculum, I'm kind of thinking, why isn't there a subject of environment? We know for the next, like, for our children's lifetimes,
there is geography.
Yeah, and I think, but you are right. I'm sure in the curriculum they'll be learning more about the environment stuff. But why isn't that a huge focus? Because we know it's a huge focus for our children's generation.
Did you not learn about sedimentary rocks and
yeah, exactly,
ISO something rocks?
Yeah. So you'll be fine. Just keep. Yeah.
I've got a question for you on that. Kind of on that. We're hiring and stuff, and we're going to be hiring more over the next few years. Do you take any consideration into someone and really think about this, do you take any consideration into if someone came with A stars in everything they've ever done and someone came with Fs in everything they've ever done, do you not think that would impact your decision of hiring them at all?
So if I'm completely honest, I rarely look at people's grades in GCSEs or A levels or the equivalent of those things. So the first thing that I look at is what they've been doing. So I was like, oh, okay, so you did go to school and secondary and did A levels, and then you went to university, and then you've been working here or whatever. So I look at their path through education and things, but I don't actually take notice of the
actual grades.
The grades. And I do think, and that kind of gives me some confidence, because I hope there are other employers out there the same. Because I think you can, from like your A levels when you're 18, if you're 22 or 23 going into a job, so much has happened in that 5 years that would put you in a different position to be hired than from when you were 16 or 18.
I was going to say, what percentage, expanding that question to the whole of the UK, what percentage of employers do you reckon share the same opinion as you, and what percentage don't? I reckon it's something mental, like 5% have that and 95%.
Yeah, I think more wouldn't, and it's understandable. Some things. So I think if you're trying to work if you've come out of school at 18 and you're trying to work for some IT company, they're going to look at your IT A-level or equivalent of what that is these days. Baccalaureate if you're doing a weird different thing or whatever you're doing. And I guess that does make sense. Like, right, this was literally last year. I'm going to check that you've got a good level of knowledge in this thing. But I do think if you're going for different jobs that are more general, that the skills are actually like communication skills, and people skills.
What was your grade in communication at school? It's like you haven't got a grade for that, have you?
Or you're going into a sales role. It's kind of like, well, there's not a subject of sales. Do you really need to look at the other subjects? Or you got D's in religious education and geography.
I've got one more question for you on that.
Yeah.
What tip would you give someone there's loads of people that are listening that are probably looking for jobs. If someone wanted a job in a certain company, what would they do? Like you're saying that, your grades don't matter. I've got all A stars though. So me having A stars isn't going to help me. So what should I be doing to get that job I want in the company over there?
So I think it depends what job. Because again, if you want to be a doctor, don't just go, Lloyd on the Business Anchors podcast said grades don't matter. So I'll just pretend to be a doctor and speak about it and it'll be fine. So
terrible advice.
Clearly there are those things where your grades matter. But in my previous role, I used to hire like 150 people a year, and go through obviously more interviews than that. And
you've done a lot, haven't you?
And then obviously hiring people in this role. I actually think I'm quite qualified to answer this question. A lot of the other stuff we talk about, guys, we just make it up. But this I'm actually experiencing. But yeah, it's definitely about, like, even if you've left school and there's a year since you've left school, if you then have a CV that just shows, or all you can talk about in your interview is went travelling, it was really good. Everyone people are awake to the fact that a lot of that time you would have been partying probably and that's absolutely fine. That's cool. But I think you just need a few things on your CV along the way to kind of be, that's interesting. They've taken that. So even if it's nothing to do with the job, it's interesting. You volunteered at that food bank for a couple of weeks in October last year. Yeah. Speak to me about that. Or it's like,
you sold these things randomly on eBay for that's
you did this. So you want to be a video editor and you've done this pro bono video for this local charity or this local small business. It's things like that.
Yeah,
that only in a whole year you could do 5 things for 2 weeks, so 10 weeks of your year, and it would make your CV and your kind of story look really interesting. Like, this person's got something about them. So that's what I would say. If you want to go traveling for a year, do it, but just think about, what can I come out at the end of this year with on paper and that I can tell the story of that's going to make me look interesting to an employer.
So you got something about you.
Yeah. That would be my tip. Cool. Unless you want to be a doctor. Just do well at school.
Yeah. Cool.
You got anything more interesting to add, Dan, until we go into part 2 where we're going to be talking about more businessy related education stuff?
No, I think we've spoken a lot about things I want to talk about.
So I hope, listeners, you now know that we are the absolute world experts in education. If the Education Secretary's listening and you want any consultancy, get in touch. I'm sure the phone will be ringing off the hook. And now you all know I'm a qualified teacher. If you need me to teach your kids some good podcast lessons,
then get in touch.
Thanks for listening, guys. Part 2, like I said, we're going to be talking about more of like the educating yourselves in preparation of going into business or running a business, and good and the bad and the fails we've had and the successes we've had in educating ourselves in that world. So
we're talking about how we learnt how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Yeah. And remember, there's a huge opportunity for you. Leave us a review with the words "my face," and your face could be on the TV of a Business Anchors podcast.
Could be seen by
13. It could be seen by literally tens of people. You could become world famous in very specific places like Denmark and Italy, where we chart. So yeah, huge opportunity, guys. Just
seriously, though, it is a big opportunity
in, because it helps us and it helps you. if you're looking for a job, imagine getting your face out to the world, to those 73 people.
We guarantee a job.
Yes. Terms and conditions apply. Cannot absolutely guarantee a job. Thank you for listening.
You'll listen to part 2.